So they terminate me in less than 3 minutes, they being the police commission. They say, yep, the chief's action is true. So next thing you know, there was a whole group of supporters that were there. They were my friends, family, and other law enforcement. So we make our way out of the building and into the parking lot. And I just happened to begin a conversation with my attorney when we hear the screeching tires and a couple things get hit. And it didn't really know what it was. And we peek around the bushes on the side of the building, and there's 2 people laying in the roadway. And within seconds, we're in the road. And we know it's a really bad scenario. So there was a male and a female in the road. She was alert, conscious, breathing. You could tell numerous broken bones, lower extremities. And then the male was face down, covered in blood, gurgling, and what we kind of describe as agonal breathing, or what at least it appeared to be.
Today we're going to have a few very, very different conversations than we typically have here on Behind the Uniforms. One is about how one of the threats that law enforcement face in many cases isn't just from on the road, and the other is I want to introduce you to a friend of mine who just saved a couple of lives. So brother, why don't you tell them all who you are, and let's start there.
So my name is Jason Trombly. I'm from Suffield, Connecticut, where I live with my wife, Danielle, and 2 beautiful babies. One is about 20 months old, and we just had a beautiful baby girl about 6 weeks ago.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about you first of all, and your background and where you're from and law enforcement, all that good stuff. Give me some context.
So I grew up in Suffield with my family, and there I got involved with a Police Explorer cadet program at the Suffield Police Department. So they had it years ago, it discontinued, and there were a couple officers that wanted to start it up again. So I was one of the few that stepped up and said, oh, this is interesting to me, it's something I want to get involved with. So I did a youth academy over the summer, and then started the cadet program, did that for many years throughout high school. While I went away, I went to Central Connecticut State University. I went there for criminal justice and business, but while doing that, I was actually an Enfield auxiliary police officer. So it gave me a unique, I guess, a unique thing to be able to do at the same time while going to college and working, but also serving, in this volunteer role at the Enfield Police Department. After that, I applied to Simsbury Police. It was the first department I applied to, and I got hired when I was 21. So I went right to the academy, came out, was a Simsbury police officer, and there I've worked for about the last 11, almost 12 years.
So I got no fewer than 40 messages from police officers across Connecticut and a few from outside of the state who said, you got to get this dude on the show. He just got kind of screwed. So I know that you've got some stuff that's tied up legally right now, and there's only so much that we can talk about, but I want to talk a little bit about what happened, but more importantly, what lesson other officers can pull from the need to sort of cover your own butt, because the threat to law enforcement isn't just what's happening on the road now. In a lot of cases, it's in your own agency. So let's talk a little bit about what happened.
You're definitely right. So of course you have all the internal pressures and the external stuff. For me, the external, out on the street dealing with the community, the people, the calls for service, that's always come to me just as being easy. Of course, every day is different. All the calls are different, the people, but working in Simsbury in that area, I got nothing but respect and gratitude for that town and those people. They've been nothing but great to our police department, great to our officers. Of course, we deal with criminals and we deal with bad things, but we're always able to navigate our way through and do the right thing. And the Simsbury police officers are second to none for any officers in this state or in the country. But when I go back to the internal side of things, that's what I'm dealing with right now, and dealing, the officers versus the administration. And it shouldn't be that head to head, back and forth. But for my situation, yeah, it's come to that where I'm dealing, we're fighting against the administration.
So right now you're no longer with the department, is that right?
Correct.
And where have things sort of left off? And again, we'll talk about as much as you can or can't.
Sure. So basically, the chief heard of a rumor that I allegedly did some things. He then investigated it himself. Then he did an internal affairs report against me.
Wait. You said the chief investigated it himself?
It is extremely odd, but correct.
Isn't that usually what IA is for?
Yes, and he does have the option, even in our policy, to go to an outside law firm or to another reputable agency.
But he chose not to.
No, not in this situation.
Okay, so there's comments allegedly made about the chief. So the chief does his own investigation about the incident involving the chief, and then what happens?
Correct. So he does this, and then he concludes in his own report that that I allegedly was a malicious gossiper, untruthful, insubordinate, and I may be forgetting one, but in conduct unbecoming of an officer, which is completely untrue. And I stand firm that I am not guilty of any of those things. And so right now, my attorney, with the help of the union, has pushed forward and is filing for arbitration with the state. So we'll go to the state labor board, and that's where my case will rest. You know, we'll be before 3 neutral, unbiased, fair arbitrators that will be able to hear my case and decide on my fate.
So one of the things that I thought was interesting when you and I were chatting off camera, I think a lot of dudes who have been through what you've been through would probably be really bitter and angry and have a lot of stuff to say about the agency. And I couldn't actually get any of that out of you. Literally all that you talked about was a love for the community, for your fellow officers, and about wanting to get back on the road and do your job. What is it that has driven such love and loyalty for law enforcement for you?
Well, it's in my blood. Kind of like I said in an interview after a tragic incident that happened after I got terminated, and I know we'll talk about that in a minute, but it truly is. I mean, I was born into this culture. I believe law enforcement and the military are basically one and the same. My father was in the military, my cousins, my uncles, my grandparents, from all different levels, all branches. So when I grew up, that's basically the people that kind of fostered that culture into our family, into what I know. And just always doing the right thing, always being a good person, always rising above, even if you're handed, a bad, a bad plate or a bad scenario, kind of like what I did. I think I was sold down the river, and I think it was very unfair. But I'm not going to let one person decide my fate or navigate my course in life. So I did nothing wrong, and I stand to that, and I will fight it all the way. And I guess the reason why I don't have any animosity is because it's not the town of Simsbury. It's not the people that reside there. It's not my fellow officers. They're all good people. They've all done nothing but great things to me. And in a whole, for over a decade of working in Simsbury, I've had so many great experiences that they can never take away from me, from helping deliver 2 different babies, from responding to great calls with other officers that have helped truly people in need, medicals, some of the worst calls in Simsbury, helping to investigate a homicide of a woman that was murdered on the bike trail for 4 years.
That's right.
So I had the opportunity to investigate some of the best, most high-profile cases in Simsbury, and to help those families. You know, we can't bring back their loved ones, but do what we can to bring them some resolution. So they can't take that away from me. Also, all the people that I've met over the years from the different organizations, like we were just talking about cops, being a part of that organization that helps survivors, doing the police unity tour, going down to Washington, D.C. to support people who have died in the line of duty. All these different things have truly just kind of shaped who I am and why I'll never be resentful, but just positive of everything that I've been able to be a part of.
So you leave there, you're having a pretty lousy day, and you end up essentially stumbling upon people who are in need of having their lives saved. Let's talk about what happened.
So it was crazy. So they terminate me in less than 3 minutes, they being the police commission. They say, yep, the chief's action is true. So next thing you know, there was a whole group of supporters that were there. They were my friends, family, and other law enforcement, a lot of officers from Simsbury and surrounding towns. So we make our way out of the building and into the parking lot. And I just happened to begin a conversation with my attorney when we hear the screeching tires and a couple things get hit. And it didn't really know what it was. And we peek around the bushes on the side of the building, and there's 2 people laying in the roadway right in front of Town Hall. I mean, this is like, 50 feet in front of the building. There's a crosswalk that goes across Route 10, the main road in Simsbury. And so we go running down there. And behind me is also all the other officers from the area and some of my family. And within seconds, we're in the road. And we know it's a really bad scenario. So there was a male and a female in the road. She was alert, conscious, breathing. You could tell numerous broken bones, lower extremities. And then the male was face down, covered in blood, gurgling, and what we kind of describe as agonal breathing, or what at least it appeared to be.
So what you're saying is that, and I'm going to sort of dissect this a little bit. You know, I'm just coming off of Concerns of Police Survivors National Conference, where I interviewed countless survivors who, so many of them have explained how in so many different ways big man upstairs works, right? Puts people in different places for different reasons that we'll never understand. If you and those other officers weren't there for your termination that day, those people might be dead. Is that fair to say?
Without a doubt, because when it happened, and I mean, of course, everything happens in a split second, and you try to go back and dissect it. And I remember kind of being there trying to triage the incident. And because you have so many different people running up, bystanders, witnesses, the person who hit them. And so like as a supervisor, when I was a sergeant at Simsbury PD, that's what I did. You triage the scene right away. And that's what I was doing. And it really didn't even hit me that I was terminated until I was going hands-on helping these people, breathe and roll them over and do all the medical things that we're trained. And I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, I just got terminated. Should I even be helping? But I was already so far into this that it was at the point where we were almost loading them on the ambulance, and we had Lifestar coming in. But that moment had already passed, so it didn't even cross my mind. I didn't even think twice until this scenario was almost over. But when it all unfolded, there was one officer that works for Simsbury, off duty. He says, holy shit. And he then sprints back in the building, runs across the building, grabs a set of cruiser keys, sprints to the other side of the parking lot to go get a cruiser. And he's actually the first car in the road to make sure we don't get hit by other cars, throwing medical equipment at us. So we had medical equipment, to use on these people and to start helping them breathe and triage the scene before the officers that were working in uniform, that had their cars already preloaded, that were in the building, before they could even make it out because of the way that the dispatch goes out and they receive the call, all that time for the communication to take place. And then just for everyone that was there, they were all first responders. So everybody was helping and doing everything we needed to do within seconds.
That's crazy, man. I have chills just thinking about how all of these elements came together in such a shitty situation for you, so that you could once again save lives. The whole situation sucks, but that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing because we had no idea, of course. And of course you never know for sure because of internal injuries from getting struck by a vehicle. But based on that night, we thought the female, okay, she has a lot of broken bones. She's gonna be in pain for a while, but she's gonna recover, so we're okay. But the male, we gotta breathe for him. We gotta put another airway in him. Did the airway through the nose to make sure he's still breathing. Rolled him over, and we're worried about all the other injuries and how we're gonna get him on the helicopter to Lifestar to get him to the hospital. And of course, him, we have no idea. But then I recently got an update, or I read it in the newspaper, is that he's coherent, he's alert, he's still alive. So we know he has a fighting chance. And it's pretty neat because there's a lot of times where law enforcement, police, fire, you help on these calls and you really don't know the outcome because you just go on to the next call and you just keep going. But I guess maybe for me, now I've kind of gone from that sworn law enforcement role to civilian because I'm in limbo until I can win my case back. So now, of course, I've been thinking about these people and that they're still alive, and it's pretty moving.
So typically on this show, we share a glass of the bourbon that the guest brings in, and then they sign the bottle, and the bottle goes on the wall. It's a wall of their stories. But we're not going to open this yet. We're going to open this and toast when you get your badge and your gun back. Brother, thank you for coming on, sharing your story. Guys, this man needs a little bit of love and support from all of us because I think it's safe to say he can't say this weekend, this is bullshit. So let's rally the troops. Let's show this man some love. Some absolutely incredible men and women over in the Simsbury Police Department. Let's make sure that they all know where we stand. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for hitting that share button. God bless America.